Welcome to RVing in New England, the nation's only forum that puts you on stage with some of the biggest names in the RV industry. And now your hosts, John DePietro and Bob Zagami.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to RVing in New England. My name is John DePietro, and normally my colleague Bob Zagami would be here, but Bob is, as they say in TV news, Bob is away on assignment. Now, sometimes they say that when they're out having dinner with somebody else or applying for a job somewhere else, or out on assignment. But with us, it's actually he's out on assignment. He is in Las Vegas, and he is at the RV Dealers Association convention. You know, it's the first time in 2 years that the dealers have been able to get together face to face, and the activity that is going on out there is absolutely amazing. It's kind of, you know, the funny thing about the RV industry, it's kind of like a family. And so many, at least really in New England, many of the RV dealerships are family-run businesses. And with that being said, these guys are, when I say guys, I mean generically, these men and women are getting together for the first time in a couple of years. And needless to say, there's some Jack Daniels that's being opened in Las Vegas during these next few days. So we had hoped that Bob would be able to make a cameo appearance and join us, but interestingly, he is in the middle of a meeting with RV dealer groups from all over the United States, and he's the chairman of that group. So he said, you know, I'm running the meeting. I can't really just take off for 10 minutes to come onto the show. But we want to thank you, everybody, for joining us. We have 3 guests tonight. Not 1, not 2, but 3. And I'll introduce my first guest. And whoever can tell me, who can write in, type in the name of this guest. We're going to see how active you are, folks. We're going to see how active you are. Tell us the name of that guest. Jim Roy, you're the winner. Dante, you're the winner. And Jerry Plant, you're the winner. Now, there's guest number 1. Who is guest number 2? Tom Zabrowski, you got Gumby as well. Billy McNamara, you got it as well. You can tell the age of the group in this audience. There we go. Jerry Plant. Pokey. You guys are so good. You know what? We have to have fun. We have to have fun tonight. And we have a very special real guest. And I'm going to bring him on in just a minute. But I want to let you know that if you have a suggested guest or topic that you want to see featured here on RVing in New England, just write to us, you know, Bob Zagami at rwzagami@gmail.com, or write to me, rvjohnd@gmail.com, and we'll see if we can get them on. And tonight's guest is an example of someone who had made a call to me and said, this person has done something very spectacular with an RV, and I think that he will be of interest to your show. So with that being said, Mark Polk, I'm glad you're here. I just talked about you before. And Mark, you'll be able to comment tonight as well. Let's welcome AJ Eads, who is from the outdoorspodcast.com, the outdoorspodcast.com. And AJ, welcome to RVing in New England. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're calling us from.
Thanks, John, so much. And great to, see everybody there in the chat. Really cool to see so many people here this evening. It'll be really fun to talk with you and, hopefully answer some questions, or at least just kind of get some information from some of you folks. So my background, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I currently live for just a little while longer. My wife and I got married a couple of months ago, and we are currently planning on moving on to our RV full time. We just kind of did about a 2-month trip through Colorado as kind of a warm-up trip. And we're back in St. Louis getting our condo ready for sale and getting ready to move aboard full time. So On top of that, kind of have a background in backpacking, and we've recently gotten into fly fishing and some other outdoor pursuits. So kind of use the RV as our jumping off point for a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, great. You know, I wrote some notes down here. Backpacking, hiking, camping, fly fishing. They're all better when you use an RV as your base. So let's just see who we've got here for our audience so far. Jerry Plant is with Majors RV. They are one of the top service centers in all of the Northeast. And they don't sell RVs, but they fix them. And if you go there, like, for example, you know, we'll see if Jim Conboy's on, but I had a roof problem, and I know we're going to talk about roofs, and RV roofs are something that you never really know what the deal is. You know, they take care of roof repairs as well. Dante is an owner. Jim Roy is a restorer. Jerry Plant, again, he's there. Michelle is with Rolling on TV. She just finished a 7-week, 5,000-mile trip. Jim Roy knows who Gumby is. Dante knows who Gumby is. Jared, Tom Zabrowski, former executive with the FMCA. And who else we got here? We got Jane. Billy McNamara runs a campground up in the great state of Maine, a great campground. And Mark is here. Mark is the one who I mentioned to you just before we went on the air, that Mark and Dawn put together RV Education 101. They have a series of videos on how to fix virtually anything in an RV. You should team up with them because you guys did something very special here, which we're going to show all our people. Billy Mack is at a outdoor hospitality conference right now. Billy, where are you, down in Virginia or Washington? I think I saw Marcia Galvin post something about that not too long ago. Frank Palange, it's good that you can't stay here because you don't really have anything to say anyway, except bad things about me. So hopefully you're already gone by now. But nevertheless, but Frank has an interesting high-end fifth wheel, and he had a big 45-foot diesel pusher before. Billy, great to see you again. Bernie Culleton is with Campers Inn, which hasn't made it out to your end yet, but they've got 40 stores throughout the country. Wow. A large family-owned business, and has his own show called All Things RV. Walter Swenson, and another one I mentioned, here's our resident engineer, and that's the story. So you did something very interesting, AJ. You went out and bought a brand new 2021 RV, didn't you?
Yeah, something like that. Complete opposite.
Am I off a little bit?
Just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. We went the complete other direction. We've got a 1993 Class A Fleetwood Bounder that we acquired through a good friend of ours that bought this RV off its previous owner and did a bit of a gut on it, left most of the mechanical systems in place on the coach, but did a lot of, kind of walls and bathroom and things like that, took it all out, and then parked it for a couple of years and just kind of left it there. And
wait. Parked it for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, parked it for a couple of weeks. Parked it for about 2.5 years.
Oh, years?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Okay.
And just let it sit there on a parking lot.
Okay, right in the Midwest sun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on a blacktop parking lot, no cover, no rain cover, nothing. Just left it there.
So that doesn't have any impact on the roof or anything that's inside.
No, the battery, the tires, none of that stuff goes.
None of that stuff is impacted by it.
None of that stuff. No, absolutely not. And after about a year of living in San Diego, they had my friends had moved to San Diego. Basically, got a call from the storage lot that said, "Hey, you got to get this thing out of here. We're going to do something else with this place." So he called me and said, living in St. Louis, "Hey, man, you're a buddy of mine. Can I just turn this thing over to you for the short term and you just take care of it for me? I'll pay you for whatever you need." And being a buddy, I said yes.
And the story goes on from there. You said more than yes, and then
Yeah.
what was it? A few months later, he's just said, "Hey, will you take it off my hands?" or something to that impact.
Essentially,
Exactly.
my wife made the suggestion, "Hey, you've kind of fallen in love with this thing and just kind of moving it around a little bit." And we had dabbled with the idea of leaving St. Louis and moving to the Pacific Northwest. And we think that that's kind of more up our alley as far as landscape and kind of just general way of life. And so we wanted to explore that, but we didn't really have a way to do it. We're not financially wealthy people. We can't just kind of jet set in and out of towns from St. Louis and stay in hotels for lengthy periods of time. So she suggested, "Hey, what if we fixed up that old RV and traveled for a while and let's try some towns." And that's kind of what happened.
Now, when she said, "If maybe, what if we fixed it up?" Did she know the extent that what fix up meant with you, AJ?
Neither one of us had any idea. We thought it would be some paint, a couple of quick fixes, slap a new bit of hardware here and there, and we'd be off and running and adventuring all over the country. And that was very far from the case.
Far from the case. Folks, if you've just joined us, my name is John DePietro. Bob Zagami is on assignment in Las Vegas. And that sounds so funny to say. Bob Zagami is on assignment in Las Vegas. But Zagami actually, when he goes to a conference and convention, he actually goes to the events. He doesn't just go to the the shows and that type of thing. So I'm sure that he is, in fact, working. But we want to let you know that we are talking with AJ Eads from the outdoorspodcast.com. And he is telling us about the, I don't want to say sprucing up because that is certainly not the word. Maybe we can get into some of the pictures with the before and after and just show our audience what you went through. Because as I look here and see the people that have commented so far, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question for AJ, just feel free to type it in under the comment section. Normally, I don't have to tell you all that, but we got a little different format tonight, so feel free to type in a question and we'll go through it. So let's talk about the roof. You said you put on several containers of
Flex Seal. And really where this started is when we took the bus over and kind of made an agreement with my friend to say, "Hey, we're going to legally take responsibility for this thing and we're going to start working on it, putting our money into it." There was a lot of water damage. There'd been a lot of breakdowns around the skylight over the bathroom or over the shower area, and some of the other vents had leaked over time. And we could kind of just see that if we didn't address the roof first, none of the rest of the stuff we were going to do was going to work. But we weren't really in a position to, and we really wish we were, because I really wish we could have done some of these things more professionally. But we really just wanted to kind of get it to where we could start using it and then determine, is this going to be for us or not? And so I bought 3 gallons of Flex Seal and with a little 4-inch wide trowel, just kind of drug it back and forth and created a nice layer across the top. And cross our fingers, over the last few years, we haven't had any problems with it.
Right. I should also tell our audience that I am not technically capable of doing the engineering that Bob usually does. So joining us is Bill Sell, our resident engineer, who is right there. Actually, he came on. I was going to say, "Bill, come on camera and say hello," but he did that already. Now, interesting. One person says, "No, Tim RV, who sells RVs and fixes them as well, says Flex Seal a joke." So, you know what? It's worked so far for you, right?
Yeah. And I mean, look, if we were going to invest tens of thousands of dollars into repairing this RV, doing the roof the right way professionally would be the very first place that we would start. We wanted to get to the point where we weren't incurring more water damage and still leave some budget in what we could afford to address some of the other projects that we had.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll see as we go along, this guy, he went all out. So why don't we start with our exterior shot, for our before exterior shot, Bill, if you can get that up there, because those bounders that came out in that year, they were all over the place. I think it had to have been one of the biggest selling brands. And it looks like you guys, it looks like it's on a Chevy chassis because it's a little narrow. Is it a workhorse or Chevy?
That's a great observation. It's a Chevy P30 chassis, yeah, with
It's a little narrower than the
block
Fords
V8.
were at that time, and a lot of manufacturers at that time manufactured the same RV on both Fords and Chevys,
Yeah.
or Fords and workhorses. But that's it beforehand, and let's go inside, Bill. And where do you want to start, AJ?
Yeah, Bill, where did we
There we
had
go.
water damage, like I said, pretty significantly, that had damaged a lot of the kind of interior wall covering along with a lot of the walls. So we had to take all that wall covering down and really dry the inside out with dehumidifiers and make sure that we weren't covering up any mold. We did lots of sanding and kind of removal of materials, and we really got it down to what we thought was kind of a reasonable starting place. And in the bathroom, that meant completely tearing out the vanity and starting over, fixing a lot of the wall, as you can see, and then doing a lot of repairs around the shower. So I built a vanity. One of the things that I think is important to note, I live in a condo. We have a townhouse, and we're very lucky that we live on the end of the unit. So we do have kind of a direct close or a direct path to the RV, but I don't have a garage. I don't have a workshop. We did all of this stuff in our basement and then just carried things up to our back patio, one piece at a time. If I was sanding stuff, that's what we would take it upstairs and sand it and bring it back down and do stuff. So this was kind of a long process, but we built the vanity in our basement and then built it with the idea that we knew we were going to have to take it apart and reassemble it around the existing plumbing, because I didn't have the capability to kind of redo the plumbing. So I had to build around it. And so we kind of built, a really simple frame just out of some good quality plywood and some structural materials, as you can kind of see, and then added a front to it and then a top. And then we glued a new piece of material there that's got some water repellent capabilities and kind of keeps moisture from building up behind it. We glued all that in really well and ended up with a really nice finished product. I'm sorry that I don't have a photo to show you the finished product. I've got some videos you can check out that kind of really do a good walk around of the bathroom and everything else that we've done. But this was really kind of where we got started, because without the mechanical working bathroom, we really couldn't use the RV to go many places. Yeah. And so this was kind of where we started.
That was your plan, to do the bathroom first.
Exactly. And then we moved on to the living room and to the kitchen. And so in the kitchen, we didn't do a whole ton. I mean, all of the appliances, most of the plumbing, everything was in good working functional order. So all we did was paint the cabinets, and then we put on a new custom butcher block countertop, which I cut out from a piece that I bought from IKEA. And again, we just used the old countertop as a template, and I went through with either a jigsaw or kind of just some small hand tools and basically cut out the same shape. And then with several coats of tongue oil, butcher block safe tongue oil, got a nice finish on it, and then put that in place in the kitchen and finished up with a product that we're really, really pleased with. And several years later, still holding up really well.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, AJ. When did you do this renovation? How long ago did you do it?
It's taken place over about the last 2.5 years.
Okay.
We were lucky, unfortunately, that over the last, 2 years, what we've all been struggling with gave us some kind of free time to, really delve in and make a lot more ground than we were. Cause like I said, it's been a slow process. But it's taken us about 2.5 years to get where we're at now.
Where you're at now. So, ladies and gentlemen, anybody has any comments, feel free to punch them in right now. If you have done the same thing to your RV or have helped with another one, either with the place that you work at, feel free to put your comments in right there, especially Mark Polk, who I know has done this on several occasions. Feel free to chip in. So you just kept the same. I think you said it had olive green shag carpeting, and you and your wife love that. So you said, we're going to keep this olive green. Is that right? Did you keep
No, luckily, the former owner, my friend, had torn up all of that prior to us and had started the flooring process, but stopped just at the back in the bedroom. So we finished that with the material that they had left over, but they had ripped out the bed. They had ripped out all of the electrical. You can kind of see that there on the right-hand side. And then we kind of started over. So as you can see, doing the flooring, I didn't even match up the boards as you would with the flooring, because I knew that was actually going to be under the bed frame that I was going to be building. And so I didn't get too worried about, the little details. I just wanted to make sure that we had some consistency.
Okay.
We then used some plywood and made a frame, and then used some, Amazon style struts to essentially create a lifter for the bed platform, so we can actually use that whole area underneath the bed for storage.
Right. Now, did you keep it like that on the right, on one side, or did you have it centered so that you have walk areas off both sides of the bed?
We left about 3 to 4 inches on the back side towards the far wall, so that we'd have enough room to tuck in, sheets and bedding and things of that nature. But we really only left about that much, because if we would have brought it far enough out where my wife could walk through there, it really would have eaten up all the room in this side of it. So we did build a small nightstand on the near side of the bed, kind of tucked into the back corner that you can't see here on the right. And that's got storage for just, phone chargers and, our iPad at night and things like that, and a small fan.
There we go. There we go. And it was an east-west bed or a north-south bed?
It's east to west.
Okay. So that window on the right up there, I'm pointing to it. Yeah, like you guys can see, is that is part of that's the back wall.
Yeah, so we've got 3 windows in our bedroom on all, one on each wall. And the right hand, as you can see back there in the back, that's the foot of the bed on the left with the tan blanket, and then our pillows are kind of hidden back to the right.
Yeah, yeah. So we've showed them all. So
and then the bed, John, lifts up towards the hallway, so it actually lifts, side to side.
Okay, great, perfect. Yep. Now we should say that this unit does not have a slide. And, so many times I think in renovation situations, you're better off not having a slide. I don't know if you'd agree with me on that or not, but the slide would add a lot more work.
A lot more complexity. Being someone that's never done anything like this before, that has no background in any, furniture building or mechanical work or electrical or anything like that, simple is better for us. And although it would certainly be nice traveling with a couple dogs that we do, to have more room in the main area when someone's cooking, for example, it served our purposes really well, keeping things simple.
Yeah. Now you mentioned dogs, and always people say, well, big dogs, little dogs. What kind of breeds do you have, AJ?
We have got a 45-ish pound Australian Shepherd kind of dog. And then we have got a 100-pound chocolate lab. So we've got 150 pounds in dogs with us.
250. Oh, that's right. Okay. I get it. There you go. I was reading it wrong. See, Walter Swenson, our resident engineer, said slide and water damage add to the complexity. For sure. He's done that already. Walter, did you do that on your rental trailer or on one that you had prior? Because Walter has gotten it to the point where he bought another trailer just to rent out, just to use as a rental. And, first year, the COVID year, it was kind of slow, but this past year, he was going quite a bit. So we'll see what Walter says. No, a 30-foot park model that we rebuilt. Was that a long time ago, Walter? I didn't know you had one of those. So we'll see what Walter has to say. So now you've got you're working on the dinette now. That was our last slide.
Yeah. So we
again, you went right into the walls, right? Get all that.
Yeah. So we removed a lot of the wall covering material and really kind of pulled it back to where we knew that there was no more water damage, and then took some material that I found at Home Depot that I was able to work with, and kind of essentially put covering back on that wall, as you can see, in a couple of pieces around the dinette area, and then reattach the table to the wall. And then since then, actually, I'm in the process right now. We've actually ripped that whole dinette area out. And we're going to be rebuilding that with a new table and then a smaller shelf against the wall where you see that cow photo now.
Okay. So
So
that
that'll
table
give us
there
a
is a
little more.
permanently affixed table. That doesn't slide down to make bedding.
No,
Right.
there is a way to do it, but the hardware was old, and the way that we had
Yeah.
replaced this side of the dinette with a small ottoman, it didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And we knew that we could create more space there around the kitchen by having a smaller kind of bar style table that's just up against the wall. So that's what we're actually in the process of doing now.
Okay. Okay. So it looks like you, is it the same color wood that you did in the back and the front, or did you lighten it up in front?
So we've painted the entire thing front to back white. It came in kind of a neutral, kind of
Like beige.
a beige
Yep.
wood grain color. And then we painted everything about 3 coats of white to get it to the color that you see now.
Right, right. I was referring to the floor. I'll get to the cabinets in a
Oh,
second, but
the flooring is just a vinyl rollout flooring that looks like hardwood.
oh, okay. They did a nice job with that.
Yeah,
That's just a roll out
we've
like
been
a
very
little.
pleased with it, and it's held up well.
Okay. But with the cabinets, it was that standard blase, typical RV thing there. Okay. That's looking, describe that look from the back to front. Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, so this is sitting on the bed. You've got our closet on the right, the door to the bathroom on the left. We've got a dry shower, which is really nice feature to have with a kind of a small, tiny tub. And then on the left there, past the bathroom would be the dinette, and then the kitchen's on the right, and our living room's on the left.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Next.
So kind of this is a further forward view up into the front of the coach. And so we replaced the existing jackknife sofa with an IKEA couch that actually comes out a lot further than the original jackknife sofa. It also is just a much more comfortable couch. And it also created a lot of storage space underneath. So, kind of back to the backpacking world. When you bring sleeping bags and quilts and things, you really don't want to keep them compressed. You'd like to leave them kind of out and fluffy. And so that's what we use the underside of our couch for, is we've got all of our sleeping bags and quilts and backpacking, sleeping stuff underneath there. And it's actually served a really good purpose.
Yeah. Have there been circumstances, or will there be circumstances where you will leave the RV for a day or two, and actually tent it, or anything
Yeah.
along those lines, or is there no need for that?
No, absolutely. That's a big part of the reason that we, wanted to use the RV in the first place, was that it gave us a platform to kind of jump off and do a lot of the activities like we like to do. And so as a warm-up trip to our Colorado adventure, we actually went over to Slade, Kentucky, or the Red River Gorge in the Daniel Boone National Forest. It's the largest presence of rock arches east of the Mississippi, and met a friend of mine that developed through the podcast. And he's kind of an expert in that area. And we did a couple of nights in a campground, and then left the RV in that campground and went out backpacking for 3 days and a couple of nights.
Okay. And again, you use your RV as your ultimate base, but in that case, you could get away from it and get deeper into not have to go back to it every night,
Yeah.
hike 5 miles. And again, depending upon the time of day, I don't have an extensive, backpacking or hiking portfolio. In fact, I have absolutely no experience at all. I like to watch videos of people hiking, but I don't necessarily have the interest in participating in it at this stage of my life.
I will
But-
say one of the real highlights has been, prior to owning the RV, whenever you do a backpacking trip, typically you're getting in your car after a few days in the woods. You haven't had a shower, you're cold or you're hot, and you're having to make a long, lengthy drive back home. And it's, kind of the 7-hour drive is kind of the curse of the backpacker on the way back. And you're exhausted and you just want to be at home, sleeping in your bed. Well, when we got back to the camper in Kentucky, hot showers, comfortable bed, full kitchen. I mean, we really got to, make ourselves comfortable and get comfortable in clean clothes, and then make that journey back home. So it was really fantastic as a way to come back.
So with the trips that you've taken so far, have you been boondocking or campgrounding as your base. And what is your solar status?
Yeah, so we do a combination of both. We just spent a couple of months out in Colorado. We left here, St. Louis, in the middle of August, around the 15th or 16th. And then we came home about the second week of October. And we spent about half the time that we were out there in campgrounds and about half the time in, or RV parks, as you would call them. And then we spent about half the time boondocking. And we figured out for our budget, that's what would work. We can't afford to spend 7 nights a week in expensive campgrounds or RV resorts. They're all fantastic. We wish we could. We'll get there someday. But for right now, one of the things that we found really welcoming about Colorado is there is a lot of BLM land and national forest opportunities to do some boondocking and save some money. So we did a lot of that.
Mm. So why don't we get back to our photos, Bill? What more do we have for a renovation photos? I mean, there's our final product. I mean, you went right to the right to the outside too.
Yeah, we knew that there were going to be a lot of RV parks. We had seen in a lot of our research that were quite a few parks that really limited RVs to 10 years old, 15 years old.
Yep.
We knew that being a Class A, that would help, but the Bounder, although a classic look, certainly looks vintage and classic in the paint scheme that we had. And so we thought by refreshing and kind of updating it and doing something just, kind of clean and simple, that we would have a better opportunity at making it into some of the, nicer parks and resorts out there. And we were able to stay in, some places that I didn't think would probably allow us in. We had no problems. So we were pleasantly surprised with the outcome. We actually did this paint job ourselves. Again, DIY, literally with brushes and rollers and Sherwin-Williams super paint. Again, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. It's the way that we figured out
where you did it
work. And so far it's held up well. I'm not claiming it's going to be perfect for 5 to 10 years, but so far it's held up well.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is on that, Bill, if you can go back to the before shot there for a second, that particular model, the plastic parts down below always seem to fade and, look sun worn.
This one had very
quite
bad.
A bit. And, that one did. Did you have to replace the awning or was the awning okay?
We are actually in the process of replacing the awning material currently. So what you're seeing there is the awning as we inherited it, but I have new material on the way and we'll be replacing that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who's toying with the idea of buying an older unit? You know what? Because a lot of people that are handy can, you see all the car buffs that, rip cars apart, take the seats out, go right down to the frame. You really kind of jumped into this with no, and you didn't grow up an RVer, right?
No.
You didn't go camping with your parents and spend weeks on end at a campground. What gave you the guts to attempt it?
A couple of things. First, all credit to my wife. She really was the one that had the guts to say, hey, let's do this. And all I had to say was, okay, we can try. The second thing was we were in a really unique situation because our friends borderline gave us the RV. I mean, we've exchanged money, but it was so inexpensive that I knew even if we messed it up, it wasn't going to destroy us financially. And so I thought, why not give it a try and, see where we get. And, we knew we weren't going to just push off right away and head on some giant adventure. We were going to take it to local campgrounds. So we felt like it was a risk worth taking. In retrospect, I know that a lot of people that are my age or our age that are doing this now are doing kind of smaller Class Bs or smaller Cs. And,
Yep.
and in retrospect, if we had the option, that would be more convenient, but we've got the girl that we've got and, we're putting our best into it. For anybody that's considering it and thinking about an older coach, this is the advice that I would have. It's a ton of fun. It's been an absolute blast. And we're just absolutely in love with our coach. We got lucky. Ours only has 70,000 miles. Everything's in really good working order. I don't know that that's going to be the case for all the older coaches. The one downside that we have found so far is that there aren't a ton of RV dealers that we have found that are currently working on really old coaches. And it's been a little bit of a challenge to find, and this is part of the demand. I don't put this on the dealers. I don't put this on the RV repair shops. It's not their fault. There's such demand right now for service that they're going to focus on, at least in our experience, they have been focusing on the models that they know they can get parts for. And with our model being, 30 years old, it's not as easy. And so, I don't hold it against anybody, but the one challenge in having a 30-year-old RV is we have not had as many service centers available to us as others.
Yeah, exactly. From that end of it. So what it all boils down to is do people come up to you, at rest areas and say, hey, what is this? What kind of brand it is, that, not rest areas, but rest areas along the highway and gas stations and that type of thing?
Yeah, we've had a lot of people ask, especially since we've painted it, because it's not quite so obvious. And it's got a little bit newer of a look compared to, the style of the bus should reflect. But it's been, a really fun conversation piece. And it also gives us a place to start asking other people about their rigs. And, it's been a great conversation place when I see another RVer in a truck stop or a, place getting gas or propane. It's a great place to just, hey, where are you guys coming from? Where are you headed?
Exactly.
And it's been fun.
So our friend Walter Swenson asked, or was Jerry, it was somebody early in the show, asked, what was it here? Oh, where are you going, AJ?
So the ultimate goal is to head to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to be, we did this trip with the idea of going through Colorado and then into Utah and Arizona. We had a car mishap that ended up shortening our trip and sending us back home for a short time to reset. But we plan on heading through California and up into Oregon and Washington, then down into Idaho, and then finishing up in Montana and Wyoming at the tail end of next summer. And then hopefully at the end of that, we'll have a better idea of something, a place that we'd want to settle and, make home. But the beauty of doing this, and I was telling my wife this the other day, once we got out on the road for the summer and we did this trip, it really made me think, why would we not do this every summer for the rest of our lives? This is just such a fun thing to do, to go and explore other states and spend time in cities that we never would have known existed. We've discovered some really fun little towns that we will definitely go back and spend some time in. And I just see us being on. We really fell in love with Salida, Colorado. It's just this really fantastic little kind of unknown town, about 2 hours directly west of Colorado Springs, just about 2 hours north of Durango. And it's a little bitty town right on the Arkansas River. It's surrounded by 14,000 foot mountains. So if you're an outdoor enthusiast like my wife and I, it presents a lot of really great opportunities for adventure. And we just really liked the kind of the vibe of the town. We also really liked some of the stuff in central Colorado, like Golden and Silverthorne. And, lots of great little towns along the way that we just really had a blast in that we wouldn't have otherwise seen. So I think we'll be doing this for a long time, whether we find somewhere to settle or not.
Yeah. Now, the other question that, look at Walter's comment here. There's a new trend in the industry just over the last couple of years of doing them over, right, Walter? Is that what you're talking about? We'll see what he says on that of doing, because you see the van people doing it. I mean, that vanning. The van life is huge now, where people are buying these old FedEx trucks or buying, trucks that the painter used to have. And, then they put all the padding and stuff in, and not necessarily full plumbing. They'll get those compost toilets, but, that's that. So Dante wants to know, no rejecting service.
And let me clear one thing.
Oh, okay.
Let me clear one thing up too. I misspoke. What we were typically experiencing was chassis repair work on a 30-year-old RV. Almost every RV dealer we talked to was more than happy to help us with coach work. And they were more than happy to bring us in and work on that kind of stuff. Where we were struggling to find help was on the chassis. And we were typically referred to commercial truck centers, diesel truck centers, things of that nature.
Okay, interesting. Dante wants to know, how are you able to support yourself?
Yeah, so I have been in marketing for the last 15 years of my career in one way or another. I left the agency world about 6 years ago and basically went off on my own as a freelancer. And so I work with a number of organizations as a marketing strategist and a freelancer. So I help them do all kinds of different things, from managing their social media to producing videos to helping with podcast production. I help do strategy for a large nonprofit in the cybersecurity space. And so I've really designed my career in a way to work remotely. I was actually working remotely well before our current scenario of the last couple of years. So this has been something that's kind of been in the works for about 6 years.
Now, when in your travels, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you again, you're watching RVing in New England. My name is John DePietro. Our colleague, Bob Zagami, is on assignment at the RVDA, RV Dealers Association National Convention in Las Vegas. And when he's back next week, he will be bringing everybody up to date on all the new activity that's taking place there, except for the stuff that happens in Vegas that stays in Vegas. He won't be able to talk about that stuff, but you knew that anyway. But what it all boils down to here is, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Okay, you're watching RV in New England. Our guest is A.J. Eads, who is an adventurer and the host of OutdoorsPodcast.com. So if you like RVing with a little bit of backpacking, hiking, camping, and fly fishing thrown in, then there is a podcast that you will want to check out. So, AJ, one question for you is this. In your travels, have you run into other younger camping couples like yourselves that are doing the same thing? Because it seems that it's like a new fraternity.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of people our age on the road, and we're seeing a lot of schoolie conversions. We're seeing a lot of RV conversions like ours, or renovation projects. We're also seeing a lot of people that are doing it in vans or kind of class B's and C's, things of that nature. So it is something that we're seeing. Although I will say, because we spend the majority of our weekends in national parks and forests and things in that nature, we're not seeing, when we're in parks, we're tending to see an older crowd. When we are leaving the parks and the younger crowd is coming in for the weekends, we're typically crossing paths. And so we haven't built a lot of relationships with younger couples because we're moving quite a bit. But they're definitely there. We're seeing them a lot for sure. And especially towards the tail end of our trip, we spent quite a few nights in parks and resorts on our way home. And we heard from a lot of families that had taken their kids completely out of school, bought some, fifth wheels or some large class A's, and were living on the road now. And we were seeing that more and more commonly, that parents had just decided, hey, if we can manage the education side remotely, let's just do it, because their kids are getting to see a whole different side of the country than they would if they were living locally.
Yeah. Well, these people that said they're going to do this as their long-term plan, or was it taking advantage of something and saying, let's try it and see if we like it?
I think a lot of people were doing this more as their long-term plan. We're seeing more and more people that, at least, in the forums and in the conversations that I'm having with people in parks and especially out in the forests, it doesn't seem like a lot of people are looking for a place to stop like Sarah and I are. A lot of people are just enjoying the lifestyle and having fun traveling. And, at least in my experience working professionally, I'm in the cybersecurity industry, so I'm very connected. I'm very kind of online all the time. I run shows and things like that. I've not had a problem being connected and working on the road, even in some really remote places. So I think you're going to see a lot more of this style of living as the months go on and as the years go on.
Yep. And speaking of young people, our friend Ryan Hadley who just got an award in Las Vegas for 40 under 40, a 40 under 40 award. Ryan, are you still in Vegas or are you home now? And either way, tell us what you learned out there from going out there to that event that you were honored nationally with. And while he's there, while he responds to that, how about the people that already have an RV and are only using it on weekends, and have said, I'd love to do what you do, and they don't even have to go through a renovation. Words of wisdom to them as far as, well, first of all, how old are you and how long you've been doing this? You're young enough, I can ask you, and it's not.
No problem. I am 38 years old, and we bought the RV from our friends, or acquired it, I should say, roughly 4 years ago. And we've been moving around, traveling for about the last year. And we've really been doing it seriously for about the last 3 or 4 months.
Okay. So you're going. So
yeah.
Ryan says, just got home. I learned you never leave Vegas. Oh, you never leave Vegas ahead. Oh, so Ryan might have been a part of that generation that he didn't go to all the seminars, but he went to some of the machines. And those machines might not have been RVs. Another guy here named Mike DePietro says, hi, guys. I have no idea who that would be. Somebody with my name. But I should say that you are a result of someone calling me saying, I think you'd be of interest to your show. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have anybody out there that you know of, you don't have to know them, but know of them, or know someone who's in a field that they're in that you'd like to hear more about as a possible guest here on RVing in New England, feel free to, as I mentioned earlier, to email Bob or myself, and we'll go search them down. If you know them, it's even better because we can get them a lot quicker that way. But whatever. So the next few months on the road, staying home, or what?
Yeah, so we had to reset our Jeep. We've recently gone through that process. The tow bar for our Blue Ox towing system, which we've been incredibly pleased with so far, is on the way. Our new base plate that I'll install in the Jeep here shortly. And we'll have that back up and running. And then the plan is to take a bunch of kind of shorter trips over the next few months in preparation to get ready for our big push off. We got to get our condo cleaned out, and then hopefully we're going to be on the road by around January, maybe late February at the latest, full time. So, we're really planning on heading for California in February.
Yeah, great. So Ryan says it was fun. Nice to meet new people and put faces with some companies I've talked to on the phone. That's good. And Rick Kessler from RV Business says that he is enjoying a $24 Caesar salad in Vegas. I should say that Rick is probably enjoying the Caesar salad, but not enjoying the $24 price tag. Rick, tell us a little bit about what you saw out there that would be of interest to our audience tonight. And, just type in what the highlights of the show were so far. Assuming you're there. Well, you must be, because you said you got a Caesar salad. Now, Walter says, go the southern route at that time of year.
Yeah, that's what we plan on doing. Is we'll leave from St. Louis and head down through Oklahoma at the most northern route, potentially. If not, we'll go down through Texas and then across New Mexico and into Southern California.
So just like I said before, Rick Kessler says RVTX has been like a family reunion. Rick, because you do business with these people year round because you're in the publishing industry, but it's probably the first time that, now that, open house has been canceled for 2 years in a row, and RVDA was canceled last year. It would certainly be like a family reunion. And the interesting part is that whenever you see a situation where an expo or convention is not held, it's usually because of lagging sales or bad news within the industry. If anything, Kessler, I'm sure you'd agree that now the big issue is, how do you solve the backload? The backup of the billions of dollars that the big three manufacturers have to deal with dealing with orders that are in that they either can't get parts for or can't get help for. That's another issue. AJ, did you ever have to outsource any of your work to have somebody do something that you couldn't do?
Yeah, we've had some assistance from a mobile mechanic service that we actually found through a local RV dealership that wasn't able to provide service for us at the time. So they were actually really great in providing a referral to a local mechanic that came in and did a little bit of plumbing work. We were having some problems getting water pressure early on.
Yeah.
It turns out that the former owner had just done kind of some strange valve work, and we just needed to flip a switch. And so he was able to kind of help us navigate what we didn't know and install a few things that would have just been a lot more difficult because of the lack of tools or experience. And so other than that, it's largely been on ourselves.
Great. Super. So any further questions, we'll be happy to ask AJ. And, Walter, you've got your big trip planned. I believe it's next summer, next August. Are you leaving then? And I think Walter's had his planned for 2 years. And when the first time I saw it and put it up there, I thought he meant next summer, but no, he meant the summer after that. And Walter's probably got a situation. Oh, see, now people were able to join us because it's 4:00 out there. Now they got dealer awards. So Rick Kessler, thank you for joining us. Walter's going to, just August, September. Walter, how many miles is your trip? And how many states? Because you're going to be doing quite a journey. Oh, Arizona. What's that? Is that where he starts? He goes to Arizona. That's probably his farthest. He's not going all the way out to California. But we want to thank 6,000. 6,400 mile trip. You're not going to try that yet, AJ, right?
No, we're not going that far, but I'll tell you, by the time we go down through Southern California, all the way up through, I would imagine we'll probably have some similar mileage to that. We'll probably go through at least 3 to 4.
Yeah. The only difference is Walter knows every mile of his trip. He's got them mapped out. He drove to California. He drove from Massachusetts to Florida in a day and a half and was upset because he got to South Carolina 15 minutes later than he expected. Little did he know that there would be traffic at the George Washington Bridge for him to deal with, but that is what happens when you're dealing with an engineer. But
Walter, I wish I had more of you in my personality, because we have a tendency to wing it, and it creates some chaos at times.
Here's what you need to do, AJ. Stay in touch with this show every week, and we get guests every week, such as yourself. That last week we had Mike Sokol, an electricity expert, that talked about all the different issues. With RVs, you've got the engine part, the truck part, and then you've got the house part, and then you've got the generator part for the air conditioner, which doesn't just run on batteries. So anyway,
that's something, to kind of to tail onto that, John, that's something that as a new RVer, we've really had to figure out, right? Because we've got a 30-year-old unit. We don't have all the newest inverters and nicest technology. You asked a question earlier about solar. We are going to go down that road at some point. We've currently not got that in place, and we probably need to upgrade our batteries before we do anything else. We did recently purchase a Blue Eddy kind of portable 750 watt hour battery bank. And that helps us make some of the jumps from campground to campground. It can cover us for 3 or 4 days of just charging phones and iPads and laptops, things like that I go through a lot of for work. But dealing with our power issues will be something that we'll be navigating over the next year or so.
Great. Now, you do have a functioning generator?
We do currently. Yeah. An Onan, the same one that everybody's got, the Emerald 3 Plus. I will say this: when we're staying in national parks and campgrounds and things like that, we tend not to want to run that because it's loud. So we find ourselves running a little Honda 2000 Quiet Run that we bring with us instead of using the big one.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that because I interviewed some people from Onan just a month or so ago when we were at Hershey, and they finally, they said we have 25-year technology. We're finally coming out with something that is much, much quieter, but yet provides the same degree of power.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that, but that's
I'm seeing a lot of folks out there running, Honda and Predator and Jackery 3500 generators to run their air conditionings and power their fifth wheels over what's built in. That doesn't surprise me that they're coming out with quieter technology, because
yep,
I'm sure
quieter technology. So it's pretty cool. So we want to thank you so much as we wind up. Anybody else with further questions, type them right in. And, AJ, we want to ask you to do what we ask all of our guests to do is for about a day or two, just check back with the replay on this at the website. And people might have questions. And if you just answer their questions, feel free to do that. So we want to thank AJ Eads for being with us tonight. We want to wish Bob Zagami a safe trip back as he heads back to Florida on Friday, and also let you know that the Boston RV show is coming up. I think it's January 14 through 17. It's over MLK weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's a definite go. Again, obviously, it's a definite go until they tell us it's a definite no-go. But, plan on that. Everybody is going to be very interested in the new products that will be out there. And we want to thank you so much for joining us. My name is John DePietro. This has been RVing in New England. And Bill, if you cue the music,
This edition of RVing in New England was a presentation of the New England RV Dealers Association. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.